You can't imagine how I love him. See, when I worked, I made a lot of money. Well, I think a lot of money a month. Made $700 a month. So that was good. That wasn't my Social Security thing. So I have the Indian school. I put them some money each year, each month when I got paid. And I just love them. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Um, I'm the interviewer. My name is Tom Akeland. It's May 17th, year 2001. I am interviewing my aunt. Name is Lillian Beverly. She lives at, was it 1815? 8015 Seven Oaks Drive in Baton Rouge. When I was a little boy, during the summer, she and her husband Charles Beverly took me in and treated me as one of their own kids and sort of raised me up during the summertime. And I spent a lot of enjoyable moments and have a lot of fond memories of my life here with them. But as a kid, of course, things don't always record, they don't always come clear to you. So I'm interviewing her, and I'm going to be asking her questions not only about her life, but about my life. And her name is Lillian. What was your maiden name?
Garon, Garon, Garon.
And where were you from?
New Roads.
New Roads.
I could get closer to.
And what was your background? Your mother and father, and can you remember your grandparents? And tell me a little bit about them.
Well, they lived in New Roads and on the islands a lot of times. They lived there too. And then I lived in Baton Rouge, and my mother had 7 children. And my daddy worked at Standard Oil at the time. That's the name of it. Now it's Exxon now. And this ordinary family, we didn't have no money, but we made out during the Depression. We had beans and rice, but we had enough. We had no extras, just no fruit or candy or cookies. But we were always a happy Christian family.
Wait, what was your mother's maiden name?
Saison.
Saison.
Saison. Saison.
And when you met Charles and got married, how old were you then?
I was 19.
I see. And you were working?
Oh no, I was at home with my mother and parents.
Well, tell me, how did y'all meet?
Well, he was running the streetcar in Baton Rouge at that time. They had one, and he worked with my uncle. Then he met me. He wanted to meet me. He was 10 years older than I was. I got married twice before.
Twice.
So then we got together. I mean, we would talk and we'd go out, have dinner, and go to a movie and everything. Finally, I fell in love with him. So in 6 months we got married.
What year was that?
1933.
Okay. And you've had 3 children, right? What's their names?
Charles, Huey, and Blanche.
And Huey was named after Governor
Huey Long.
Yeah, Huey P. Long.
Yeah.
Huey P. Long Beverly. Yeah, and Charles was the oldest, right? In your card to me, you say something about wanting to tell me something about Charles's mother. Hold on a minute. Put my glasses on here. Oh yeah, I would like to tell you about Charlie's mom. He never knew her. He found out about her when he was 40. His dad told him. It was sad. Remind me to tell you. What is it that you want to tell me?
Okay, well, Mr. Beverly, my father-in-law, he was a Spanish-American soldier. He married this beautiful Spanish girl. There was two sisters. One was Lola, and I don't know the other one's name. But Mr. Beverly fell in love with the other girl. She was very beautiful, I heard. So that they had the little baby. The little baby was Charles. So then she didn't want to leave her country to come to America. But her sister did. Lola did. Lola Beverly did. So she came. So she stole the little baby. This is the sad thing. She stole that baby from her sister, and left Spain and got on this big ship, and they came to America because she wanted to come down here because she figured that they had a lot of money here and all that kind of stuff. So when they got on the ship, well, then they got married.
So she was from Puerto Rico, right?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he was down there in the Army of Occupation in the Spanish-American War.
That's right.
Now, didn't they go to Honduras first?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they went to Honduras before they came to New Orleans. Yes, they did.
But Charles was the son of Lola, not of Dolores, right? Not of what was my grandmother.
No, that was his aunt. That's his aunt. That was not his mother. The mother stayed in Spain. She didn't want to come to America. So the sister stole the baby and came to America. And this lady never saw her baby again.
But that was Charles, the baby was Charles, yes. Your husband, right, my uncle, right. And why did they go to Honduras first?
Well, I guess they wanted jobs. But she talked about that. Of course, she never told me nothing. Nobody knew nothing about it. Mr. Beverly and her knew about it, her husband, see. And it wasn't that great secret. It was never to be told.
Well, he told me. He told me that he was not Grandma's son, that he was Grandma's sister's son. Now, you say that was Grandma's aunt?
No, her sister, the one that...
Right.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Okay. So,
now Charlie told you this.
right, he told me.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know you knew that.
Yeah, he told me a lot of things. Remember after he got hit by the helicopter? Mm-hmm. He told me a lot of things about things that he had told me when I was a kid, but I didn't pay that much attention to him. He never told me that his mother was not really his mother.
Well, because he didn't know it then. He didn't know it till he was 40 years old. And Mr. Beverly, his father went to Chicago to the veteran hospital because he had, they didn't say cancer, they just said a tumor in his stomach. His stomach was great big. And when he got to the veteran hospital, well, then they found out it was cancer, so then he died. And they but before he went to Chicago, he was in the hospital, so he said, Charlie, I want to tell you something, it might change your life. You want to hear it or not? Well, Charlie was a very curious man. He would do anything to find out something. My husband, I'm not like that. He said, now it's going to hurt you, make you feel bad. If you still want to hear it, he said, yeah. Or see, I would say no. All right. So anyway, he told him about that. So that's when he knew about it. He was 40 years old. Yeah.
How old was the old man when he died?
80.
I thought he died young.
No, he was a good-looking man.
Yeah.
But anyway, this lady, Charles's mother, the sister came to America after Charles was about maybe 2 years old.
Did they ever meet?
Who?
His real mother.
Well, she came to see her sister, and there he was playing around the floor. He must have been about 2 years old. Oh. But he didn't know who that was. Yeah. But they got in a big argument. Charles said, with a little bit of small, maybe like 4 years old, I don't know. And he said he knew they was fussing in Spanish. He couldn't hear nothing, you know. So anyway, her and Mr. Beverly went out that night. Then she went back to Spain, and when she got over to Spain, she killed herself.
Was she married? Did she have any other children?
It was sad story. Yeah. It's very sad, yeah. But I thought this was awful. Well, you see, he wouldn't properly, Mr. Beverly now, He was a type sort of like Charlie, Charlie's type. And well, he was, I mean, and like a lot of the altar cats of their daddy, as far as that goes. Very intelligent, but tricky. And if he wanted something, he gonna get it. So probably this girl wanted to come to America. He said, well, stick with the baby. She won't come with me. Probably got mad and took the baby away from her. And that's how she got to America, Miss Beverly. She was never happy. Miss Beverly was never happy. She paid her price for doing that to her sister. This was an unforgivable sin. Take that little baby from his mother. Now you see, and Charles said to me that many times that she was mean to him. He said he knew the difference between the other kids and him. He could tell something different before he knew about his mother. He could tell that she never did hug him or anything like that. He had a terrible childhood, Charlie did. And then he would do a little thing, maybe run away, and he wouldn't come in for lunch. She would tell him that when he came in, Mr. Beverly. So he'd take him to the bathroom, took off his belt, and beat him, unmercifully. So then, as soon as in the morning, he would never stay home. He would wait on the corner for his daddy. He had a sad life, Charlie did.
Well, and so did my mother, you know. She told me the same thing, that her mother never once hugged her, kissed her, or told her that she loved her. And that's something.
It's terrible.
Yeah. But you got along all right with her at times?
Well, at times we did. Sometimes she was jealous, of me, and wanted to take over my house and, my jewels and everything. And Charlie, one thing I don't like about what Charlie did, he never defended me when his people were around. That hurt me severely. He'd always defend them. For instance, one time, now he was the best one out of the bunch. He never got into trouble for my second son. Well, the other was in here visiting us on weekends. So I saw her take Huey by the hand in Huey's hours, and she put him in the front bedroom and she closed the door. I went in the back and told my husband this. I didn't say anything. And I told him what happened. I said, Charlie, he was good. I don't know why she put him in that room. He said, well, let it alone. Don't fool with that. Instead of coming in here, defending his wife and his child, well, he didn't do that, you see. He never did defend me, never. So that's why we had. So I would say that the in-laws ruined my marriage. I would say that. But I wasn't going to get me divorced. They was trying to getting me to divorce him, because everyone hated Charlie, everyone. And I found out why. I said, they never did admit it. But I told him one time, I said, why do y'all treat him so bad? He does everything to please him. He said, well, when Mama divorced Papa, he didn't come around and help. He ran away, went on the hobo trip, then he joined the Navy, and he got a dishonorable discharge from the Navy. He didn't mess his life completely up. The main thing in his life, women and sex. Now that's all he lived for, right? Women and sex.
This is Charles or your husband, yeah.
And
well, there's not, that's sort of a typical male thing. There's.
When you see them, I do a lot. So my husband taught me to read all kinds of things, so I've learned a lot. When he first married me, I didn't know anything. But then I read and I found out. It doesn't mean that a man don't love his wife, but he has to have sex frequently. And he didn't want to bother his wife, so he goes out with other women. That doesn't mean he don't love his wife, because he does love his wife. But, these women, that's hard to understand. But anyway, I cope with it. Mm-hmm. I never wanted a divorce. I just didn't believe in it. And he was with all kinds of women. And a lot of them I didn't know, and they were the same way. So, but he was never happy, my husband. He could have been happy, but he was.
Well, now, Mr. Beverly, what was his first name?
Charles Oscar Beverly.
No, not your husband. Mr. Beverly, the one that married.
Renee.
Renee, yeah. Rennie, right? R-E-N.
Yeah.
He was a womanizer.
Oh, yeah.
I understand, that he had several illegitimate children that are, we accept in the family as being related, but um, was he was still married to the old lady before the divorce, and he was still messing around with younger women.
Oh yeah, he never did stop. And you see, now later on we found out in life he never did divorce his wife. So she got his on the last go around, maybe 20 years before he died, or she died. It never was divorced, so Charlie started working on getting her some money, because she wasn't divorced from him, getting money from the government. And she did get her money from the government, you see, because there wasn't ever divorce. She thought she was, but she wasn't. But he had beautiful eyes, and one time we told him, I was probably 30 years old then. He said, let me ask you a question. He called me Boogly because he knew I was French, you see. All right. He said, let me ask you a question, Boogly. He said, all right, God, what is it? He said, if you caught Charlie and you told him was going to go with women, what would you do? Well, I was very young now, and I told the truth. I said, I'll just cry. He said, well, now that's the kind of woman I should have had. That would just cry. And I would cry, you see. That's what I did.
Well, what did his wife do? What did the old lady do when she found out about him philandering around?
She wouldn't sleep with him.
Oh, yeah.
So what he would do, she told me, she would sleep on a pallet on the floor, and every night he'd get a great big bucket of water. They were very poor people, very big, well, like a gallon of water, I guess. And he'd come and pour on her and get everything wet. They had no other blankets and pillows to change. And every night he done that because she wouldn't go back to sleep with him.
Yeah, I remember her telling me that. Yeah.
Now she loved you and she took care of you when you was a little small child.
Yeah.
Your grandmother did for many, many years. And then you came over here, you see, in the summer months. Then you went to the school.
But she didn't love her children. I know that's one of the things that my mother held against her, was the fact that she sent it to this boarding school in Georgia. You know anything about that?
Yes, I do. Well, you see, now it's supposed to be a girls' home, a school, but it was one of the prostitutes. That's what it was. And she was a beautiful little girl. And she didn't know no better, Miss Beverly, because she hated sex anyway. So she didn't know this kind of place, but she put this beautiful child, and then Lola found out, so that made her feel bad about that. And Blanche hated her mother too, see?
Yeah.
The whole bunch.
All of them hated her, and they fought with each other because of that.
Exactly.
They would never seem to be a close family. And yet, Charlie seemed to me to be the one that was always trying to do the right thing. And when y'all took me in, because my mother was living in a walk-in closet in a rich lady's home on Britannia, and she couldn't keep me during the summer, so you all kept me here, fed me and took care of me, and God knows you weren't rich.
No. We shared everything.
Right. Well, I remember the old shack in the back before this house was built. When was this house built?
1940.
1940. Oh Lord, yeah. See, so I was real young. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You was a young child, and you were over here with my little kid,
Yeah.
Y'all would sit on the couch. Of course, we didn't have radio, the television. We had a radio.
Right. I remember the old.
And then maybe you remember this program. Every week I think it came on. I wasn't paying much attention, but this was a scary thing. You call it a squeaky door.
Inner sanctum.
Oh, the innocent.
Yeah.
Oh no! I mean, I'd be cooking those baby washing dishes, and they'd be in here the sketch of death, and I could hear the door. But y'all were the sweetest little folk kid. I just love it,
Where was Rennie Beverly from? Do you know where he was originated?
I think New Orleans.
New Orleans?
Oh, you mean Mr. Beverly?
Yeah, the old man.
Oh, Virginia. That was his state. That's where his people was, in Virginia. Because Charlie hoboed one year, and he went down there to meet all his people.
Right. And he told me that they ran him out of town when he was asking questions
Yeah.
about his dad. Do you know anything more about that?
No, that's all you see. Well, they had one girl there, and I mean, he talked to her to go on here from sex. And I mean, Charlie was knew better than that, better. He was very young too, but this girl, she don't know what that is, you know. I don't know what. Well, anyway, they went on, and I said, Charlie, I said, you knew better, and how come maybe she got pregnant when you left? He said he didn't know that. And they bootlegged over there. And he used to have a night job to watch the gun, little rifle and everything. In the mountains, they had mountains all around there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were bootleggers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know anything about his family, about Rennie Beverly's family?
No, I really don't.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been trying to research the Spanish American War records, but I can't find him in there. I don't know. You don't have any old papers or anything
No.
from him? Yeah. But he went to the VA hospital
In Chicago.
in Chicago.
Yes, I know that. They didn't have one in New Orleans. That's a long time ago now.
Yeah.
That's way up there in probably was, let me see now, 1940, I think it was. In fact, he visited us, and he was getting ready to go home, and they were listening to the radio, and they got an announcement saying the Japanese just bombed Pearl Harbor. So Charlie thought that was a program, and Mr. Beverly did too, but it really was the boss talking.
Yeah.
He was 38, Charlie was.
38
Mm-hmm.
at that time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he was, my grandfather was 80 when he died. That was in 1940 that he died? 41?
Yeah. Well, probably that same year,
Yeah.
That same year probably. Mm-hmm.
I see.
Mhm.
Okay. Because what I'm trying to do, if I can find the VA records from that year, but the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor December 7th, 1941. So if he was, it would have been at least 1942 when he was in the VA.
Probably so. Yeah.
Because tell me about what he called Papa's Pallet. Is that where he would stay?
Who?
Out in the woods? Grandpa Beverly.
Oh, no, you see, he didn't know about the pallet yet. You see, but my father is the one that came here and made a little pallet in a little wood. We had a little bunch of trees right around the property. When we lived in a 2-room, before we built this big house,
Right.
Papa built, he put 2 little boards across, and you call that a Papa's pallet. That means he slept there during the daytime, take little naps.
Right. Oh, so that was your father,
My
oh, I see. I thought it was
No.
my grandfather. Oh, all right. Well, but I knew he was he was a hunter. He loved to hunt and be outside in the woods.
That's right.
I remember that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, hold on. Okay. You had 3 children: Charles, Huey P. Long, Beverly, and Blanche. Now, Blanche was named after my Aunt Blanche, your husband's sister, oldest sister. And tell me a little bit about them.
Okay, well, you see, now, Charlie and I, we always said that if we have a little girl, we'd call her Rosemarie. Then Miss Beverly came and took care of me when Blanche was a little bit of a small baby. She only weighed 4 pounds and we lived in 2 rooms. And she would bathe in olive oil to make sure she wouldn't get a cold. And she was perfect. She treated very good. All right. She saved her life, in other words, I think. And I think she did. And so then we started naming the baby. And I told her that we wanted to name her Rosemarie. Now, she didn't want that. Now, you see, I didn't say, well, I'm the type that starts screaming and cursing. I just keep quiet. While they're doing all these dirty things to me, I'm quiet here. I want to see what's going to happen because I don't like trouble. Because I don't know what that is. Because at home we never had none of this. Nobody fussed. They didn't argue. They didn't pick. Nothing like that. Okay. So then, Charlie and I knew what was going on. I knew about the little baby boy, Rosemarie, because she's a adorable little thing. Now, Miss Beverly didn't want that name. She wanted Blanche, her daughter. Now, I didn't say nothing, but I didn't like that. I didn't like it one bit. And so and I said, well, after a while, I said, well, how about a rose blanch? I like the rose, you see, because I didn't. I see the blanch to me that seemed like it was kind of rough, like, and she was such a little darling thing. I want something, you know, gentle with her here. So she said no, she didn't want the rose blanch. She wanted the blanch, wanted her every way, you see.
Yeah,
That's how we
she
got.
was very
That's
willful.
how we got out of trouble like that, honey.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I didn't say nothing. I mean, young and everything. So we didn't name our little baby, and Charlie and I had planned to name our little girl Rose Marie. And I thought he would go and tell his mother that. No, he didn't. He was a very weakling. My husband was a weak man. He screamed and yelled and cursed, and you want the people to think that he was real tough, and he would beat you up and all. But he wasn't that type. He's a weakling and a very weak man. He very weak. So you see, I didn't say nothing, but I would never nobody was around. I went in the room and I just cried for hours, but nobody saw me. Cause I'm my little baby's adorable little thing, and I want to be Rose Marie. But this was blank stuff. Not to me, blank was a bad word, you see. And you know, I thought it was bad anyway. So anyway, I let that pass. Never did argue. I never did argue with Charlie about things like that because it wouldn't do a bit of good. Now he should defend his wife above everything, but he never did. Never did. So little by little, as the years went on, I just adjusted to the fact. And then as I got older and older, then I started defending my own self. You see, when I was about maybe like 50 probably.
Hmm.
So, but anyway, she caused a lot of trouble, Miss Beverly did, you see. She wanted her way. And now another thing that Charlotte didn't defend me, Blanche, she broke up, she was going to go to another apartment. She said all her things over here. She had put a tablecloth, jewelry, and perfume. I could use it if I wanted, she said. And so she had a beautiful tablecloth, the lace and everything, you know. So I put it on my table after we ate. And that's when the kid was here spinning things afterwards to make it look pretty. Because I couldn't afford it, didn't have it. Next thing I knew, I went back to the next time I came in the dining room, it was gone. And I was wondering what happened. Charlie was working. And Charlie was, and I was wondering what happened to the tablecloth. I didn't know her too well at that time. So I went looking Blanche's boxes were in my middle room here, and I found it. She had folded and put it back. Well, I took it out of there. I was getting mad by that time. I didn't say it was. I just took it out and I put it back on the table. Well, she didn't move it this time. When Charlie came home, naturally you're going to tell your husband. And I told him about it. Oh, he says, go ahead and take it off the table and go put it back in the box. Now, you see? Now, this hurt me very, very badly. So he must have not known. Well, you see, now, when he was young, instead of him taking care, he didn't have to do it, but he was supposed to take care of his mom and everything. He was out hoboing, Navy, and get kicked out of the Navy, wildlife and everything. So then he felt guilty about not taking care of the kids while the dad and mother were divorced. So I didn't know all these kinds of things. They held this grudge all these years, from the mother on down, Renee and Virginia and all the whole bunch. I don't know about Laura now. Now Laura would seem like she was different than these people over here. She might do it wasn't bad as they was. We never got to know all of them. Laura and I never. And so that's why they treated him so bad, because he was trying to make up, you see. But they had this grudge. He never could. And he's mistreated his wife. Of course, I understand the situation. And I loved him. And, but it hurt me so badly when he wouldn't take up for me. When I was right, you see. And so.
Well, what was he kicked out of the Navy for?
Well, he wouldn't come back to the ship. You see, he would get on these little small ships, little boats and all. They go to maybe like 3 days. What he got hooked was women. He was wild about, after I'm saying sex. That was his complete life, sex and women. That's all he lived. He didn't know that I knew all that. Because see, I'm reading. He told me to read. He said, now don't get smarter than your teacher. Because sometimes I'd come out with something, you know, and he said, oh, don't get smarter than your teacher. We'd laugh about that. Well, I kept on reading, you see, and I read about all these, how the men are, and how the women are, and I know all about how men are.
Well, now, you weren't married to him when he was in the Navy, though, were you?
Oh, no. Oh no, but he tells me all these things.
Yeah.
And so he wouldn't come out to the ship. He'd go and lay with them women and have wild time and everything. They come back and they all line up on the deck and all. He'd put him in jail and the brick and take his money away and all that kind of stuff, you see. And they kept on doing that until finally they got tired of that and they kicked him out. This was a terrible thing. You see, that would have been a wonderful career for him. But you see, his mind was in bad shape. He had a terrible childhood.
Yeah.
But you see, even though I read also this, even though you had a very bad childhood, if you are a strong person, you can get out of that. But you see, he was a very weak person.
Yeah.
I never told him all these things. I didn't want to hurt him.
Well, you can't. It's hard to judge people, because you don't know how things affect them, and then they take it out on you, and you get offended, but you never really know how a person has to deal with stuff in their life. He always knew that some.
Until you
Right. Well, she told me that she liked her boys better than her girls. She always did. I guess that's her Spanish upbringing because they are taught to sort of worship the male, and females were not really that considered.
oh, I didn't know all this.
Yeah, yeah. I remember her telling me that because of her upbringing, the male was the head of the house. Everything was deferred to the male, and the women were not really considered as, really that good of a person, whether they were excellent or not. Women were not given status in colonial Spain, which is what Puerto Rico was at the time.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. So I know that my grandmother gave me preference over other of my cousins who were female.
Oh.
Like Blanche. Yeah, because she told me that the men were her favorites, as she
Oh.
put it. Yeah.
Oh, she loved you very much, though. And she took care of you for years and years.
Yeah.
And and you wouldn't eat anything, and Lola would force you to eat a little bit of
Yeah.
small chow, and then you would serve it up. You go back to do it, and she wouldn't do variety of things. It would be like a big old pot of oatmeal. Well, she fed that to you for maybe like a week, as long as it lasted, and you just threw it up. And she took a lot of things. Then your daddy now, she said, oh, she praised him to the highest. He was a nice looking man.
Yeah.
In fact, I saw him one time. And I think he was a gorgeous man. All right. Now you see, Lola wanted money. She wanted the finest thing in life. She would never buy a little plastic cup. No, would never buy that. She wanted the crystal here. And she kept on till she got the crystal. Now you see, none of this interests me at all, none of this. But it did for her. She wanted the finest of things.
Yeah.
And when y'all was living together in New Orleans, she got a tablecloth and she set it up and it was just beautiful. And she expected Tommy to work and help her pay for all these things. And I think the last I heard that you left New Orleans and you went to California.
Well, no, when we went to California, I was just like 17, and I wanted to go. I wanted to go. I like to travel. I wanted adventure. But now, when I left California and came back to New Orleans, she wanted to follow me back to New Orleans, and eventually she did, and we got an apartment together, and she went out and bought all this expensive furniture, and that's when she expected me to help pay for that. Well, I didn't want all that stuff, so eventually, we parted ways, and she wanted me as a substitute for her husband. Not in any sexual way, but in a, I mean, she had nothing else. She had no real affection from her mother or father or, the rest of the family. And she was a very unhappy woman, and I think part of it was because her mother was an unhappy woman. So it tainted all of the children.
Absolutely.
And I remember writing a letter to Blanche, your Blanche, one time about not passing that hatred on to the next generation, because it's self-defeating
It is.
to have that, so. Now, when Charlie came back, that's when he married you, when he got out of the Navy?
Oh, well, see now, he lived in New Orleans, then he met this girl. She was working this dime a dance. She bought a whole string of tickets in your dance. She was a real, she was a real like a stripper,
Yeah.
But he loved those kind of women. So, I'm gonna tell you something surprising. You're not gonna believe this. So, so then they lived together, and then they got married and everything else. And then they made a pact. She got the fool with the men. She was crazy by the men. He was crazy by the women. They made a promise. She'd never go with another man, and he wouldn't go with her. Well, they didn't keep the promise. Whenever they was out of fight, they keep on doing all that. Well, Charlie got to a point where he couldn't stand it no longer, because that was the great love of his life, not me. Not me. Okay. But I understood all these things, you see. And then they broke up. Then he came to Baton Rouge, and he got a job on the streetcars. They had him at that time, 26, I think he came over here.
And when did he buy the land? That was after y'all got married?
Oh, yeah. We had, let's see, I think we had 2 children then in this room we lived. And then this place was, it was very cheap. The whole 5 acres cost $350. And he didn't have no money in his pocket. So he had to have $50 to pay to hold the 5 acres. He went to his boss and he borrowed $50. And then later on, you see, then he built these 2 rooms by himself.
Yeah. Well, that's when he was driving streetcars?
Oh, let's see now. Well, by that time, they done away with the streetcars. He was on the bus then.
I see.
Driving with the bus.
Yeah.
Nobody helped him do anything.
Yeah.
But when they had this nice house, Renee started coming. Renee never did help. He took advantage of Charlie, 100%. Took advantage.
Yeah.
He lived here off and on. We had this house, but we had no money. We owed on the thing. We owed it, you see. It looked like we had lots of money, but we did not. He was working 16 hours. He worked 16 hours, 16 times. Then he fell out and had his first heart attack.
We had a heart attack?
Oh, yeah.
When he was young?
Yeah, he was probably like 40.
Wow. Now that's before he built this house?
Oh no, that's what we had.
Afterwards,
Yeah.
okay.
We lived in a 3-room, 3 years.
Right.
A 2-room, 3 years.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't know that you saw the camp.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I remember.
Who did you come with?
I don't know.
Must be Grandma.
Well, it was there after the house was built, too. So,
Oh.
I can remember
Oh, well.
that. When you're that young, things, you can't recall exactly what would, the time period or anything like that. But that's why I'm asking you, didn't he build this house after he started working for Standard Oil?
Yeah, he had just started. The man got an application, And he had just started looking up there, yeah.
Yeah. And that's when he built this house.
Yes.
The big house.
The big house.
Yeah, right. Did he build it himself?
Oh, no.
No, you had it built.
Yeah, we had a
Contractor,
and everything.
yeah. Right.
And it only cost complete, like the sand in the floors and all. We didn't have any carpet then. And $4,000 complete. So I mean that was now you see these lots around here, they were sky high now.
Oh gosh,
Oh,
yeah.
So his mother told him, said, you know, we see I had 3 children in that one room, we all stick in that one room with freezers. She told him, so now sometime this year I want you to get Lillian and these kids out of this place. Lillian's a good wife and a good mother to these children. Build her a big house so she'll have convenience. Because I was carrying Marty in, and when he wasn't there, I would chop wood. If he was there, you chop the wood. If he wasn't there, well, I was going to chop the wood. One time I was chopping wood, and a little piece of, I didn't know how to do it, and a little piece of wood stuck right here. So I started bleeding everything, so I went next door, and she put some coal all on it, and made it stop bleeding. But since I put my head too far down, I didn't know how to do this, see? So, but I never did that before, after that, though, you know, because I didn't want to be blind, because I had these kids, you see?
Well, I can remember too. When he got the motorcycle. Remember that big Harley motorcycle he had, and we'd all pile on that motorcycle.
Oh, you remember that? That was fun.
Oh yeah, it was fun. We all used to want to sit on the front in the handlebars, you know, because that was the best place to be. And we'd all pile on that motorcycle, and y'all would drop us off at drive-in movie, and then probably go to some juke joint on the highway or something, or go riding around and dancing and all that.
No,
No?
Oh, no, indeed. Now, you see? We did all this honky-tonk stuff, which we love. I partied for 30 years, partied. Then his heart got so badly, and he got drunk every time we went, which was every Saturday. So I said to myself, well, now I love to dance more than anything in the world.
Right.
But I wanted my husband to live. And he would get drunk every time we couldn't drive back home. I would do it. I would drink some too, of course, but I wasn't as drunk as he was. And then you had all these talk, start hurting me and everything else. So it came to my mind. I said, well, now what I'm going to do, tell Charlie I hate dancing. I don't want to dance anymore, which is sort of a great big lie. He said, I can't believe you're going to give up dancing. I said, yeah, I'm tired of it. But it really was to save his life. But I didn't want to tell him because he loved whiskey. He just loved that stuff. Of course, he did his work. He put his money. He was a good provider for his family, the best of his ability. So whenever he went with women, he didn't take any money from us. It just went on, you know, maybe it was free or something, I don't know. But anyway, he didn't neglect his family. He done the best he could for his family. I'll say that part. And all the money went here. So which wasn't too much at first. But anyway, we managed it. But he would be working the 11 o'clock shift, and you and I and the other 3, we would walk to the remember that, walking to the drive-in theater.
Oh yes.
I don't know how far it
Walked
was.
everywhere. You know,
exactly.
Barefoot sometime on a hot tar.
Yeah.
In the summertime, and that tar would be bubbling up. You know, and try to walk in the shade, shady spots.
So let me tell you what happened. While we was walking one time, car stopped with the man and said, do y'all want to ride, lady? Well, I knew better. And I said, no, thank you. We just taking our exercise. The kid said, why didn't you tell him we want to ride? We're so tired. And of course, they didn't understand things like I did.
Yeah.
So I told him would come from work, 11 o'clock, come to the drive-in. He would put one of the kids on the handlebars, take him home. He done that 4 times, and then he brought me home, you see. And we went every time it changed. It was cheap, you see.
Yeah.
So we had fun like that.
What type of work did he do at Stand It Off?
But when he first went, his boss told him to take a sheet and metal work, a course in that. They were paying better than what he was doing. Well, he took the course. Then they told him to go and take a bricklayer course, which he did that. Well, then the war was just booming then, and they needed welders. They said, I'll tell you what to do. pick up welding. They're gonna always need welders, wall or no wall. So he took it out and he made a first class welder. Now he made good money there, and he made 16, like I said. He never just stopped working, paid all his bills. We paid just how we, I think we had 20 years. We paid it out in 10 years. We made about 3 payments when we could. We made a lot of back bill. We paid all that stuff. Now he was an honest man. He had an A1 credit rating to buy anything he wanted because his credit was perfect. Perfect. He paid. He believed the first thing we do is pay the bills first. Then they had maybe $5 left over for groceries. We get on that. Because that's very important because you have to have, where it wouldn't rain on you and all that kind of stuff. So he done the best he could.
Well, let me ask you. You say you like the Indians.
I love them.
Yeah. Do you have some Indian blood in you? On your no?
You see, I do a lot of reading, like I said, and I read how these people were so mistreated.
Oh yeah.
And why do they allow that even to this day? Why do they allow that? Put these down to see if they're going to have art on this spot here, they found out they're going to have art here or whatever, or better for them. Then they take the Indians off and they put them way over there somewhere else. And they dig and get all the benefits from it. And they're mistreated. They couldn't go to school. Nothing like that.
Yeah.
And my heart goes out. I'm very sympathetic. And I just love those people. And when I was working, I would send money to the Indian school and different things. And it's been about 2 years now that I got out of it. But that's why I didn't want to stop working, because I was helping these people. And they were so glad that I was helping them out. Even though it was $1, I gave each one $1, which amounted to about like $40 a month. Now let's see. No, $40 every 2 weeks. And I've done that for about 4 years, so that added up, you see. But they were so glad I've done all other things, churches, missionaries, all kind of things I did. And that's why.
I'm sorry. This was in New Roads when you.
Oh, I'm running this place here.
Right here, yeah.
Oh, I thought I married and everything, yeah.
Yeah.
That's been about maybe 3 years ago I was doing that. And I had
Is
to
that
stop because I didn't have no more job. So I wrote to each one and told them that I was retired and I was going to be on Social Security and I could not help them. And I was sorry. But they still sent me little cards, all kind of things.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, and I just hated it. And then my sister was out of job. I gave her some money. And I have a grandchildren now, so don't think. I did wonderful. And then I saved money too. So, but I hated to stop my work because I was feeling, and it's the strange thing, I was feeling this perfect health. So after I lost my job, I grieved for my job.
What were you doing?
I grieved for it. I missed it so much. And I was doing so good to help these people out.
Yeah.
Until it really got to me. It made me sick.
What type of work did you do?
Oh, I babysit.
Right.
Like
oh,
you
that's
got.
right. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, you see now you got a home with little kids, so you went to work and I minded the little children.
Right.
Or either your mother was old and she used to want to live with her, and I did. This life work now, maybe 1 meal, not no boyfriend and all that kind of stuff. So and then when I first started, I was 50 years old, and they were paying $1 an hour at that time. But I worked around the clock most of the time. One lady, would ask, just like you have children, said, I need a babysitter. Who you say? Well, I got Beverly. She's good. She came out of my friend. And then it goes around like this. And I had about I don't know how many customers I had. Then they'd fly somewhere in Washington, D.C. And I'd stay with the kids. Sometimes it was 7 kids. But a great big gorgeous house. And I just cooked 1 meal. And they all sat at the table, and I would fill them all. One time we ran out. They loved Jello, so one time we ran out of stuff to make banana pudding and Jellos and just like muffins and all. And I was out of all that stuff. So Miss Beverly, what we gonna have for dessert tonight? I said, well, I'll let you know. I haven't thought about that. But then I made pudding, like bread pudding for my family when they were little. Well, heck, I'm gonna make a bread pudding for these kids. But I knew I better not tell them that. Because you know how kids are. If they say, oh, this is so good. What is it, Miss Beverly? If I tell them, oh, they don't want no more than that. I knew all about kids, so I didn't tell them. But I'm saying, so I made this, sometimes I put some fruit cocktail in it, and different things. So they went with that. Oh, I got a surprise. This is like when I went to this woman's house, I was the mother of the children. This was my home. They were wonderful to me. They gave me that credit card to get gas. Used that card, but I had my own car. And they had stopped, and if I needed anything, I got it, and they all paid it back. And I was making $1 an hour. But I made a lot of hours, so I did good. So they all came to the table to eat. Oh, this is so good, Miss Beverly. What is it? I said, I forgot the name, but when I think of it, I'll let you know. I never told them because I knew they wouldn't eat it, you see. So when the mother came home, I told her about that. I said, don't tell them what it is. I said, they went wild about it. She said, I never heard that before. Tell me how you do this. And I told her. So then she started doing it, and they never did know the difference. It was just wonderful.
Well, remember when I was here, y'all had chickens and pigeons, and you had old Lil, who was a cow. We milked the cow and made butter. And what was the name of the horse? Bill.
Right.
Bill. We had pigs and all. And of course now it's all subdivision and all beautiful homes and everything around here. So a few years back, Betty and I came, and she swears this wasn't the same house, but I mean, I know.
Sure, it didn't look like this.
Yeah. Knocked on the door, the front door, and heard somebody in here. But I don't know if it was you or just maybe your granddaughter or something. They didn't recognize who we were, and thought we may have been Jehovah's Witnesses or something like that. Didn't open the door, but that was the last time that we were here. But things have changed all around, but I never forget this house. I never forget this. Yeah.
Well, it's painted a few times. First it was white, and then we painted it yellow one time, and then we had it like a light blue with a dark blue trim, different things, you see. So that's why probably all didn't.
You had the brick asphalt.
Yes.
Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't like that, but one thing this did to us, the man told me, said, this is going to preserve your lumber. It's not very pretty, but it'll preserve your lumber, and that's what I wanted, preserve your lumber. So I sort of put it on. So maybe 20 years later, I got tired of that. So we decided that we're going to take it off and put something here, the white color. And do you know, all these years, we only had 6 rotten boards. All the years, been about 25 years, only 6 to replace. So it did save the wood, and that's what I wanted, but it was ugly. I admit that. But nevertheless, we saved, the main thing was saving the building. And we did, you see. So, and you remember all that stuff. Of course you did.
Oh yeah, well, I can remember playing outside all day, and like I told Betty, we'd get fed on the back porch, and then we'd sleep on the sleeping porch, during at night, because there was no air conditioning.
Nothing like that.
Yeah. And I can remember when we did sleep on sheets, you used to make the sheets out of flour sacks. And the seam would be where the sacks were sewn together, and we used to fight so that we wouldn't have to sleep on the seam.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that? Yeah, I can remember that very
Probably
well.
Grandma Beverly brought those sheets over there.
Probably
She
so,
did a
I
lot
don't
of
know.
help.
Yeah.
She was a lot of help to me. They loved her. The children loved Grandma Beverly. Because she would make candy for them and tell them those stories. You remember how she did.
No, I don't. I don't really remember her being that.
Well,
I remember all the affection, that you gave me. But I really don't remember too much about her.
well, you was very little, you see.
Yeah.
So probably after Lola, after Lola had you, she went to work right away. Well, she took over right then, you see.
Yeah.
And then when you came to see me, well, my kid was kind of big by that time. You know, like maybe 3 or 4 years old, you see, when you came in. I think you might have been like 5, maybe.
Yeah, I know I was real young.
Yeah. And you're going to school over there. That's when you graduated in this school in Mississippi?
Well, I graduated in 1951. from high school. But I went there for 10 years, and I started in 1942. Yeah, 9 years. Uh, but tell me a little bit more about old man Beverly. Do you can you recall anything in particular about him that you'd like to pass on to, your kids and your grandkids and great grandkids about him? Uh, Anything important or a story about him that you can remember?
I can remember everything. Now he was a very generous man. He was never a rich man, but he come over here to observe things. So we still had to, when he kept started coming over, well, I cooked on the wood stove back there, and then I'd bring the food over here, set it on at a gas stove here, but I didn't. It wasn't connected because we didn't have money to connect it. So then we said the food was hot, and you see he's watching all this. I didn't know Mr. Bev was watching this. So I went over. So one time he told me, he said, Lillian, I can't understand. He called me Boogly. He said, I sit down there, I want to talk to you. He was afraid about me, and I was afraid about him. He said, I cannot understand why you're cooking way down there and bringing all this here, and you got a stove right there. Oh, I said, it's very simple, and I'll tell you why. We don't have money to hook up the gas. That's why I can't cook on a gas stove. And so he said, how much would it cost to have it hooked up out there? $75. Well, so I was working every day, but he couldn't get to it. And the gas was right over, not too far from where the place was. So, okay, said I want you to get that. Next time I come here, I want to see you cooking on that stove. That is too hard for you. And what he would do, he was crazy about me, and I was crazy about him. He's a nice, kind man. And I'll think about what Miss Beverly said, all this stuff here. And but everybody got their faults now. If you like the women, that was, he couldn't help that, you see. Okay. If you like that woman, go ahead, So then when he saw everything how it was, we had no money and everything. So he would, next time he came, he brought every canned vegetable there was, every canned fruit there was, and he had this big lady, this once a rich woman that was living. He was living with this rich woman. Her name was Maria, a very nice lady. She's very wealthy. She had a lot of houses in New Orleans, and he was living there for 10 years. And so she'd get some fish. She would bake some big old fish steaks, cook stuff and everything. Oh, and all kind of stuff. Every time he'd come, he'd bring all of this because he knew we didn't have anything. We had this house and that's it. And we would pay on the house, of course. So he gave her this money, so I told her, I thought I had a fit. Thought I had a false pride. He didn't want his dad to know. I said, well, now, you don't have the money, do you? Well, if your daddy wants to have him, pay him back. He said, Daddy, Papa, I guess you call him, I will pay you back when I get the money. So, he did. He said to him, and then next time Mr. Beverly brought all kind of stuff again. And then he got a check to him for $75. Well, he gave me the check. He said, you have no clothes, buy you some clothes with this money. Which I did. Yeah, you see how wonderful? Yeah. He's a fantastic man. And I told Miss Beverly, I said, I like Mr. Beverly. She talked about him the whole time when I was young, before he married and everything else. Then finally I met him. And I told her a lot of those things that he liked me and everything. Oh, he was just trying to flirt with you. I said, no, Mama, he was too old to do that. And then I said, no, he didn't do all that. And she was trying to down him, but he had already won me over, but he never said bad things about Miss Beverly. Never did.
Boy, she said a lot of bad things about him, though.
She sure did, about women and almost about women.
Well, she mainly felt sorry for her own self. Right. And she'd tell me how he'd go out, be gone for days, and maybe out hunting, and he'd come back with all this wild game and throw it down on the table and tell her to clean it and fix it, and he'd go and drink whiskey and take a nap, and then he'd go out and play cards or gamble or whatever, and she never mentioned him carousing with women, but from what I understood, as I got older, that he was a very big womanizer, and even with younger women in particular. And but you know, like you say, maybe when she was pregnant with you know one of her kids, he was out doing it with somebody else, and but she felt that she was not appreciated, you know. So like I say, you got to walk in somebody else's shoes before you can think about judging them, you know. uh, my mother told me a lot of similar bad things about my daddy, you know, not necessarily that he was a carouser or a womanizer, but that he was a weakling, didn't take care of, you know, his bills, and couldn't keep a job. And you know, and she would, it's funny how things repeat, you know, the very same things that she held against her mother for doing to her, she did with me, you know. So uh, and of course, you know, she committed suicide. So you know, she was a very, very unhappy and tormented person.
You mean Miss Beverly commit suicide?
No, my mother, Lola.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Lola, yeah.
Now she left a note, and she told Virginia we were there visiting, and she said when you get this letter, she told I probably told where it was and all. She didn't say what she did. They said I'll be gone by that time, and she left money for you. And they said 30,000. She sent it for you, and then before then I didn't know any more about that. Virginia went and took care of everything.
Yeah, well, I'm, you know, appreciate what Virginia did,
Oh yeah.
because she took care of it, and the burden was on her, you know. And see, that was the money that I used and did things with, got the bank stock, and like I said, increased it, and then, you know, when I lost it all, it was all gone. 75,000 overnight.
That's terrible.
Well, that's life, you know. Yeah.
That's a good attitude you got.
Ah, well, I got to, you know.
Has to have that attitude.
Yeah.
Ron.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, nobody's perfect, you know.
Oh no, well, you're sure not.
I thought I was doing the right thing and didn't. So, tell me, what's Charles? Charles is now still with. What was his wife's name?
Verona.
Verona. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a good wife.
They're still together.